Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Upper Tier Podcast. I am your host, Niall Hogan. You will find us out there on YouTube, so if you could head out there, smash that subscribe and bell notification button, show your support for the channel. Thought I'd jump on today and do a quick show about Stephen Kenny. Safe to say, after last night's result against the Ukraine and the previous result against Armenia in the Nations League, the fan base is kind of up in arms again. And we have to ask the question today, is it time for Stephen Kenny to go? Or do we need to look deeper into this Irish international football situation? So I suppose I would start out by saying that I'm kind of on the middle ground on this. I'm not necessarily a Stephen Kenny fan. I'm necessarily not a Stephen Kenny fan. But I think we really need to look deeper in this really to see the root of the problem. And you've heard people going crazy over the last few days, the money that this man earns and all this kind of thing and stuff like that. And the reality of it when you're talking about football, and I always say it to people at the moment, it doesn't matter how much someone earns, be it a player or be it a manager. At the end of the day, you live and die by the sword of your results. And safe to say his results haven't been good. So if you solely look at the results of the Republic of Ireland team over the last 2 years or whatever his tenure has been so far, they've been really, really poor, and not always against top opposition either. They've been really, really poor results against opposition that we would expect an Irish international team to beat. So on the basis of that, and you look at that, you would go, yes, he's underperformed and it's time for a change and time for him to go. But if you look deeper into this, I mean, this is a man who has managed literally nearly every team in the Irish scene. Certainly the top level teams as well. Also managed over in Dunfermline. Came back, Dundalk, Shamrock Rovers, Republic of Ireland under 21s, and the senior Republic of Ireland team. Most of those clubs he's managed at, he has delivered silverware. I would like to stress that because there's a lot of I suppose, what would you call it, disrespect at the moment coming this man's way as well. And listen, your results are your results, and I can understand why Irish football fans will get frustrated. But we have to delve into the real stuff. We have to, get beyond the flesh and into the skeleton to see what's going on in Irish football. So as I said, this man, most of the clubs that he managed, he delivered silverware to. And he was also doing really, really well as a Republic of Ireland under 21 coach, and with some significant results there as well before he stepped up into the senior role. But again, if you look at his record, and that's something I'll bring up here on the screen for you now. If you look at his record at all these clubs, you will see there from, say, most of the clubs, with the exception of Dunfermline, which he didn't do as good as expected. But all the other clubs, he's generally above 50%. If you dispel Longford back in 98 and 2000 to 2001. All the other clubs, Derry City, 51%. Shamrock Rovers, 51%. Dundalk, 65%, 66% nearly. Republic of Ireland under 21s, 58%. But then this is where it dies off. The senior Republic of Ireland team from the 4th of April 2020 to present. 24 games, 5 wins, 10 draws, 9 losses, 21% win rate. Really, really poor. And you would expect much better from a man in this position. Or would you? So when you delve into this, the question is, I mean, the book stops with Stephen Kenny, but does the book stop with Stephen Kenny? When we know what we know about what's happened with the FAI, when we take a look back and we step back into the Martin O'Neill era and we look at those different things. So when you look back at those things, and again, I'll leave that record up there because it does read at times startling and brings context to the situation as well. So there's no doubt his results at senior level have been really, really poor. But again, we need to look at this. And we need to go back to the Martin O'Neill era. And we need to look at the mistakes that were made there in terms of not getting players to step over the line in terms of declaring themselves for Ireland. And when we think about names, we think about Jack Grealish. We think about Declan Rice. So you can imagine if you had a team out there last night with some of the players that are there, and we think about a Declan Rice in that midfield, or we think about the attacking flair of a Jack Grealish potentially playing for Ireland, and the inability for the management team and the FAI at that stage to get those guys over the line. And again, other factors affect that as well. Obviously, I mean, agents come into this as well, where they're explaining to players, well, if you declare for Ireland and you don't declare for England and all that kind of stuff, it can really devalue you. Like you look at Jack Grealish last year going to Man City for 100 million. I wonder if Jack Grealish was Irish, it'd probably be half that maybe. So there is a significant aspect to that in terms from the players' development and from their agents advising them. But it is really, really concerning. But I would also say in that O'Neill era as well, he played a lot of players for a long, long time that were well beyond their sell by date. And that has to be taken into account as well, because you see some of the players that he played at that stage where he should have been bringing youngsters through. He should have been developing the squad, and it never happened. He sat with the old reliables for way too long and never brought players in. So obviously when Stephen took over the reins, he had to go in there, and a lot of those players had to be moved out, and he had to do an overall, a real overhaul of the squad, where he had to bring in a lot of new players. But he was also trying to change the philosophy of a playing style, that's been embedded in the team for years and years and years. That Route One style, try and get a goal, grind it out, and try and make your way through. Now there'll be some Irish fans that will come on the show tonight and they will say, yeah, well, we'd love that now. Um, and that's fine, and there's a bit of validity to that and stuff like that. But the reality is that the type of football that works this day and age, even at an international level, when you see the development at a club level. So when you think about it, you look back and you look at the Ukraine and you look at Armenia and some of those other results, and you say to yourself, yeah, we should be doing a lot better than that. And we should be beating those teams. We should be good enough to beat those teams. Um, no doubt. And those are the results that really beg the key questions. The other thing I would say is previously we've had a major drop off of players as well, because if you look at some of the players that are in there now, a lot of those players don't play at senior level in the Premier League. And then you have a lot of them that even who are at senior level in the Premier League don't necessarily get their game. And then outside of that, then you have a sprinkling of players from the Championship, and even some of those players playing in the Championship don't necessarily get their game. So these guys are expected to rock up, for a week or 10 days or whatever it is, every 2 to 3 months, come together, bond as a team, and play. Where for a large period of that time before that, the only ball they've been kicking really is in training. And then you have Stephen trying to obviously deploy a philosophy of football there. And maybe it's a case where he has to put up his hand and accept the fact that he doesn't have the talent to try and put in place what he wants to do. And maybe a good manager or a more dynamic manager will turn around and look at that and go, okay, I know I can't play this kind of football, so I'm going to have to dig in at the moment to play this till we get in more talent or whatever it is. And you can look at it a number of ways. Let's be clear, during the O'Neill era, the scouting situation let us down greatly. I always highlight the point that I always think we should also look at our own league. There is really, really good players playing in the Irish leagues at the moment that are more than capable of going in and doing a very good job at international level. And the fact that we don't look at them or we don't give them an opportunity. And I thought with Stephen going in, I thought that might be an opportunity for someone like himself who's so familiar with the Irish League, who has managed teams up and down this country, might have been more enthused to go and have a look at that situation and see what's there. Because you know yourself, you always get the comments from the fan base. You look at, say, the Armenia game, and people are turning around going, they'll go, a Shamrock Rovers 11 would have bet them. And that's always the throwaway comments that you get and stuff like that. And, there might be some validity and some truth to that. Who knows? Because it doesn't really work that way. But I certainly do think we should do a much better job of looking at our own league in terms of developing players, and that's so difficult as well with the background with the FAI as well. There has been a level of mismanaging of funds there at times, to the point where grassroots football in the country has really, really suffered, and that's only starting to come back around again now. So I think for Stephen's point of view, timing is key in this as well, because I think we're only at the bottom of a cycle again. And I think in the next 5 to 10 years, when things become clearer in the organisation, I think we might be able to see a kind of an upturn again in terms of talent and stuff like that. But our scouting system has to be at the forefront of that. We have to uncover players at a certain level to come into this side and do a job for us. And I think that's where we really struggle. I think it's nearly to the point where international football is really still taken seriously at Ireland's level at the moment. Not necessarily if you're England or Germany or stuff, that they all take it very serious. And I know we have Scotland coming up now at the weekend, and I would expect Scotland to do a number on us. But the thing that's there at the moment, we could go out and have a fantastic game against Scotland at the weekend, and we'd be looking back and going, well, why didn't we do that against the Ukraine, or why didn't we do that against Armenia? And it's always the way. You see, we go out and we put on a performance against Portugal, or we'll put on a performance against Germany and stuff like that. But when we go to play those teams that are ranked in around us and stuff like that, that's where we tend to trip up. We dig in and we can't get it done. You seen it last night in the Ukraine game. At times we played really, really well and moved the ball forward, and at times we just went back into ourselves and we were disjointed and couldn't put a pass together, couldn't figure out what we wanted to do. And there just didn't seem to be a game plan or a way of doing things. Um, and that's how it looked. So I suppose the key question, and I would put this out to you, is drop it in the comments there and let me know what you think. I did say it would be a short one. The key question really is, where does the blame for this situation lie in terms of where Irish international football is at the moment? Certainly the FAI have to take a blame portion of this. Certainly previous regimes like the Martin O'Neill regime definitely have to take a portion for this. And then obviously Stephen has to take a portion for it as well, because he is the manager in situ and he has to know who he has available to him and who he's playing with, in terms of who he has available and what their capabilities are. And you can't go out and play Brazilian football if you don't have the talent. You can't play this new wave of 4-3-3 if you don't have the talent. You can't set up a team in a formation with three at the back if you don't really have the talent of the wing backs. And I just think where he's trying to throw stuff at the wall and he's trying to change um the way we play football here at an Irish international level, and I get that. I think sometimes you have to assess it for what it is and ask yourself, do we really have the talent? And at the moment, I don't think we do. So that is the key question coming in. Where does the blame lie? Obviously, the manager is normally the fall guy because players don't get sacked. But should he go? You know what I mean? On the basis of what we know, results will tell you yes. But if you delve deep into the background and you really look at the key issues and what he's had to deal with over the last 2 years, certainly his post-match interview last night would suggest you he seems a little lost. And I don't like to see our international manager like that. I don't like to see him head scratching where he can't understand, and he talks about defeats being narrow and stuff like that. Look, 1-0, 3-0, defeat's a defeat at this level, you know what I mean? You're playing in the Nations League. So let me know. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Does he have to go? Try to think about it in a logical kind of way, in terms of what he's trying to change, in terms of the culture he's trying to change, in terms of the organisation that he works for and the stuff that we know that has gone on, in terms of the talent that he has at his disposal. Remember, I've come from an era, I was there for 88, I was there for 90, I was there for 94, I was there for all these great times in Irish football, you know, that are resigned to history now. I remember the celebrations, the lifting of a nation, all that kind of things. When the Irish international team is doing well, when we get to the final of tournaments, it lifts the whole country and the whole country does well and they feel the weight and the expectation of that. But is this team in its current guise capable of doing that? Should he go on and manage them through a Euros campaign? Or is it just a stretch too far and should change be made now in order to give us the best chance of qualifying for the Euros? Let us know. Let us know your thoughts. This is what we're about here at the Upper Tier. If you want to contact the show, the Upper Tier Podcast at gmail.com, on Twitter at the _upper_tier. Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, the upper tier. And we're out there on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music for audio versions of the show. Can Stephen Kenny survive after the Nations League? Maybe this Scottish game is the one. This might be the one, the last resort. This could be the one where he has to pull a result out of the bag against these, or it's end game. Till next time, a pleasure.